Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. The Wasteless World Talks is here again with Bill and Kevin and myself. And because it was such a big resonance last time and we received the highest number of views, we will talk again about intelligence. And before we start, I will show you two examples of intelligence. You can make your image about it. One is, you see this? It's hard to say, maybe you will see with this, but if you see it like that, you will recognize it's a cable. It is. But on the other hand, it's waste. And this is just cut out of 2 meter long cable, which I rejected to carry with me because it will be too heavy. So this is waste. What it says about the intelligence, it's one thing. The second big prize which I received last week. It's the book called Industry 5.0. I never spoke with the author before. He is an Italian. But I discovered the book online on LinkedIn, and I wrote to the publisher generally or to the company who was participating in it. And I asked them for a copy. They sent me two. Next day, they arrived from Italy. What is interesting and what I am really happy about, he referred to my work and in some way to very detailed points. So he mentioned the 6R methodology. He mentioned even LED, which is logistic efficiency design, which I use in 2013 generally. So even before Industry 5.0 started. So he's referring, which means he must watch me. I never talked with him before. We get connected after. We will have a talk in April. But that's another intelligence. So just now, consider both represent the intelligence of human or industry. So which way is better? But as we ended last week, we discussed a lot of things about the intelligence, about the different aspects of intelligence. And I had again, today in the noon time, I have the same discussion again. And we touch a lot about the emotional intelligence, which I think, Kevin, you mentioned last time. And Bill, you spoke about it as well. And it seems like that the emotional intelligence in combination with the power of touch, so some visible, touchable result, that this is exactly what we are looking at, or what we have to improve, let's say. So what are your opinion about these topics?
I have a number of thoughts when you said that, Michael. We do talk about intelligence. We measure intelligence, but it's a very monolithic intelligence that we talk about. We talk about either you are born with intelligence or you gain intelligence during school, and my dad used to talk about two types of intelligence: book learning and street smarts. And I think that relates to the academic intelligence that we've been talking about, and probably the emotional intelligence. So there are people who are very, very smart. In fact, we have a neighbor, a little old lady, dear sweet lady, three children, and she'll tell you that her last child, who is now almost 60, but is the smartest one. He's a Mensa. He's the smartest kid she ever knew, smartest person she ever knew. But he does not have street smarts. He could not fight his way out of a wet paper bag, my dad used to say. So that's, where do we get that? We send kids to school for academic intelligence. How do we gain emotional intelligence? I don't have the answer to that, except maybe through the parents and being put in different sorts of situations and have to think through it and having a mentor to help guide. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Kevin, you are mute.
I was just struck by something, looking at the cover of the book and thinking about what the original painting means. And, you know, I think the biggest waste we have in society is, we discussed this before, the waste of our children's potential. And we don't use the intelligence that our kids are born with. We don't encourage them to be intelligent. And I think that that painting, that picture, it should, if it was a child's hand, it would make a lot of sense to society, because then we're passing on knowledge and we're passing on ability and we're passing on potential to our children. But instead, what we're doing is wasting and ignoring our children's natural intelligence and spending billions on developing an artificial intelligence. It doesn't make any sense at all.
When I saw the cover, generally, I never used this image myself, but I know that the fake Industry 5.0 use it very frequently. So you see a robot shake hand with a human and so on, including this image from the original is Michelangelo. And when I saw this cover on Friday, I have another thought in my head. Do you know who is on the original image? There is human and
God.
Exactly. So these people unintentionally probably switch the image of God with the image of robot. And this is the issue, because they did without any, I think that was not a bad intention. It was just, we have the robot, we must do, and the robot and they didn't thought about it. So they has been, let's say, served the image through their education, through their business role and so on. So they receive this image and they just use it. And that's the risk, because they did not thought. They did not use their intelligence to do it. They just used the habit. And if we build on bad habits, and we can speak about small habits like whether I wake up at this time or another time, or whether I smoke, or the big habits like I am member of this political party or the other one, and so on and so on. There are many habits which we can get. I think through similar habits, we lose the ability of this children's, which you mentioned, this children intelligence, this natural intelligence, which we are born with. And when I saw this, this image came to me. And today in the morning, I have time to time this enlightening moments. And today in the morning, I wrote one post on LinkedIn, and I have the next one. And I even sit here, write a post, and I start crying myself. That's strange, but this is the way how it expressed by me. And I will tell you what I wrote generally. And that was quite interesting, because I save it, I publish it even. So I wrote following sentence: the giants start to shrink when the humans start to grow. And that's exactly what we are speaking here about. We need and we must again let the humans grow, not to push them in boundaries of schools and education systems and political parties or factories, whatever. No, let them grow.
Did you know the original computers were human beings? So you could get a job as a computer in the 19th century because you were good at mathematics. Mm-hmm. And so they'd be used a lot in banks and things like that. Whereas today, computers are solely machines. And it would be a worry if we give all intelligence over to machines as well. So we no longer use intelligence. We don't give our kids especially the opportunity to use intelligence because we created a substitute for them. And that's really alarming.
How many parents don't tell children fairy tales, but tell them, put the TV on, there are 1,000 channels which you can choose from. And when I spoke in the afternoon, there was a pet who is from Australia generally, and he was in a nursing. He was a nurse. She was a nurse for all her life generally, and she was so excited that her 11 years old, what is it? Not son, but I don't know the expression. Grandson, something like that. The grandson. He wrote with 11 years 10 books already. She helped him generally, but she only write what he says and she corrected and so on. And she was so enthusiastic about that they did not use any computer, anything, and he's making the pictures to these books and so on. And that was so beautiful how she show up, how the generation grow together if both are open to it. And that's exactly the way how the intelligence of the kids can grow.
It's difficult.
I know.
That's difficult. I'm watching my own grandchildren who live close by, and mommy works and daddy works, and everybody is fatigued, tired by dinner time, and somehow they get dinner and take baths and go to bed, and then the next day they do it all over again. So I remember many times reading fairy tales with my mother. She did not work outside the home, but she had 6 kids, so you don't ever say that she doesn't work or she'll hit you with the frying pan. But she did not work outside the home, and she had enough time to spend with us. And for the most part, I don't think that's the case. By and large, that's not the case anymore, because of economic necessity for a lot of families that both must work. Now, I don't think that that's the way that it has to be. We have set our sights high so that in material goods, and so we need a bigger house and we need a better car and we need and so that's where our sights have been set. If our sights were set on enough, I have enough food, I have enough, there's enough room in this house, and so on, then we would be the pace of our lives would be much slower, and then perhaps we would have time to read fairy tales to our children and grandchildren. So it's a self-inflicted wound, but how do we change? How do we stop wasting the children's potential?
You mentioned at the end or in your sentence that is self-inflating. So
Inflicted. I shot myself in the foot.
Okay, so no, when we will speak about inflating our work volume, that the way is to deflate it. It's simple, just pick it. No, it can be really simple because you know what your mother did, it was great. And I do remember the same for me, and I did the same for my daughter and so on. But there was one difference. This was the difference that we did not have the computers. We did not have the TVs. We have a radio. Yeah, we have radios, all of us. So we can listen to radio, but we spend more time outside. And I think here we came to the intelligence which you mentioned at the very beginning, when you mentioned your father. We are in the streets. Of course, I'm sorry about the shooting in the next US school. I know that the situation is not the same like before, and it will never be the same. On the other hand, it's our world, it's our decision, it's our future. So if we allow it, it will happen. If we do not, the weapons will simply not be sold. We can kill with anything, of course, but you know, many of these, I just have yesterday very interesting discussion with one of my colleagues here, and she said, you know, Michael, it seems like that the people change after the COVID, a lot of. not only that there are very strange illnesses, that anybody who is completely healthy from one day to another, he is dead generally, and nobody knows why. But there is a second one. The people start to behave differently. The people do not communicate anymore. The people stay better at home and do not go outside. And if they go outside, they are frequently aggressive, much more aggressive than they has been before. And you know, in my country, it's not usually that you stab someone with a knife and so on. And right now, it happens every week. Not shooting. We do not have this. We have a little stricter regulation regarding the other weapons. So, but and she's right. And this is exactly coming back. You, Bill, will remember when we have the 1.5 years ago when we started. I said that not to have work or to let robots do all the work, it's bad, because we will not have the meaning of our life. And the first what you do, if you are bored, you pick with the finger on your neighbor, because it will be funny. But you will do it once, twice, 3 times, and then it's not. So you take the knife because it will be more funny. So this is a beginning of a war generally. If there is no really meaningful life or the possibility to live the meaningful life. So they will find the meaning in something else, in killing someone. That's completely wrong, but unfortunately, this is the development. I don't know how the brain works, but it works this way. So I think it is really important that we speak about the transformation. It's not only change. We must transform on all the levels, on all the fronts, not only on the West one, which just now win the Oscar. No, we have to do it on all, young, old, black, white, no matter what. We should become humans. And as I said, really the giants will shrink when the humans will grow. And that's the point, I think. Kevin, muted.
I saw an interview with an English guy. I can't remember which organization he's founded, but he's working on trying to stop the changing climate. And he had this very different view about climate change. He said that climate change will kill off millions, if not billions of people. If even a 4 or 5 degree rise in temperature will result in millions of deaths. And he's saying his feeling is that it's almost deliberate. I'm not really into conspiracy theories or stuff like that, but it's interesting, the race to replace humans with machines. You could almost imagine that he's right.
And you know, there is one topic which is generally confirming this, which is how much money is being funded for combat the climate. We can never change the climate. We do not change the climate. The climate is nature. Nature is here. We cannot change it. We can maybe slow down, but we cannot change it. And still, so much money is invested. This is why I have today in the morning, yesterday, I have a discussion with Svein, which is the Industry 5.0 ambassador in Norway. And he said, Michael, do you know what? You wake up a bear. And I was joking and said, which one? Because I wake up so many all around me in the woods. And he said, you wake up the United Nations, because they start to speak about waste prevention. And that's right. The only issue is that they again turn it around to make it as a waste management generally. So because the tools are there, they can start right now. If they would like to, they can start right now, right here, with no delays. We do not need any loss and damage fund. We need to fund the loss and damage prevention. But we agreed on loss and damage fund, waiting till the loss is happening. And that's completely wrong. So this is why we cannot expect the change from the giant side to push it through. No, this is why I said that humans has to grow. And this is the way I think. And the children are the small humans, which must grow in a way to be strong, independent. And
it's true that you think the COP meetings, they're the giants. There has been no drop in carbon emissions since the first COP. It has grown. It's now 60% more than it was before COP started. The giants will do nothing.
Yeah. Because the giants grow giants from wasting. That's so simple. They grow giants, and why should they change? Generally, one reason is why they do not change. They are dead already. They do not exist. They are just scavengers eating the meat, pretending that the giants are living. It just look like so, but they are no one. If you look at the current bank fall down chain reaction, generally, everybody says, it's just America. It will never happen in Europe. Next week, it's a first bunny in Europe, but it will never happen in Switzerland. The next week, it happened in Switzerland, but it will never happen in Germany. Today, German bank, same situation. They don't know why I don't know, whatever, the value goes down. I am not an economist myself, but every week is the next step in the chain, and everybody says it will never happen to us, never, ever. So, I was and I gave this as an example. I was asked last week or this week, I don't remember, it doesn't matter. I was asked, or somebody told me, Mr. Rada, we have a very special tools to prove that the banks are strong. It's advanced and whatever. And I said, okay, and why they fall? Something unexpected can happen. But he asked me, and do you have something to test your Industry 5.0? And it was quite an interesting question because I never thought about it. I need about a minute to answer. So I said, yes. And what it is, go tomorrow to your office, switch electricity off, turn Wi-Fi off, and everybody who came must turn their mobile phones off. If you will survive the day, you are probably prepared for Industry 5.0. And he said, we can never do it. We cannot work. And I said, you see, you are not prepared. So simple it is. The tools are not difficult. You have your hands, and all of you, Kevin, Bill, you lived in a times where there was no internet. You did the business at the time. Maximum was the fax machine, and it was highly advanced, but no computers. We have a typewriter. We have a calculator instead of the Excel sheet. And still we did international business, and successfully, without wasting so much. So this is a simple test for everyone who would like to test whether their business is prepared for Industry 5.0.
The tone of this discussion and many other discussions like it is one of things are headed downhill, and if we would just all stand together, we can correct it. And it occurred to me a few days ago, my wife and I went to Manhattan down in New York City with no agenda. We took the train. The train tracks are right beside the highway. And we looked out the window at the cars on the highway, which were going very slowly or stopped, and our train was going fast. And as we were coming home that evening, we were making a list of all the things that have changed in New York City. And we were very surprised at all the things that have changed. And we go down there at least once a year, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And here's some of the things that have changed. We passed a couple of store fronts that were not yet open, and it says grand opening coming soon. And they were both plant-based meat restaurants. Plant-based. Wouldn't have seen that one 5 years ago, would we? The streets the streets, the main streets like Madison Avenue and Fifth Avenue are 3 or 4 lanes going in one direction, 3 or 4 lanes going in another direction. It's not that way anymore. They have shut down 2 or 3 of the lanes on each side. The first lane is shut down, and all the restaurants have built outdoor verandas, temporary, right in the street. The next lane over is for buses only. Oftentimes it is 2 lanes, so that makes a total of 3 lanes are no longer used for cars, and so the buses and bicycles. But it's no longer bicycles. Now it's e-bikes or e-scooters.
Have you seen some electric unicycle? Finally.
No, no, sorry. But we'll go again next year, and I'll let you know if there are any there. So there are all these things that are changing, I think, for the better. The drivers are far less aggressive. I remember you took your life in your hands to cross the street in Manhattan at any time, and it's not that way so much anymore. So there's this long list of things that are different. We got to Times Square, and the big crowds and street performers. And it's been a while since I've seen street performers in Manhattan. So many things are changing just in the course of months or maybe a year at most. And what they're doing with the e-bikes and the lanes of the avenues and streets is clearly a directed, thoughtful move to either it's a climate move or it's make the streets people friendly, pedestrian friendly, very welcome. And so when we think of the tone of our talks, these talks, when we talk to audiences or clients, we can either be doom scrolling, like looking for the bad stuff, or we can be just starry-eyed optimists that everything is fine, or I like to think it's something a little bit more realistic, that we recognize the bad, we recognize the bad trends, we recognize the good trends, and we try to make fewer of the first and more of the second. But there are many trends going on now. And, I just named a couple in the cities, but the many trends, many of them are very positive. And I wanted to share another thought, completely different, something when you were mentioning the God's hand and human's hand. We talk about the future of religion, and we start off when we talk about that with clients, we start off by saying, take out your cell phones, and I want you to look up reasons why Google is God. And it's quite an eye-opening explanation, very believable, and it challenges us to rethink what religion means to us. So instead of this being God and human, I thought when I first saw it that this was Google and human.
Interesting. What do you? We have 6 more minutes to go. So, Kevin.
I was just thinking from what Bill just said. We get all our data, most of our data from Google. I was thinking the original meaning of the word apocalypse. The Greek meaning of the word is disclosure or revelation. and it is, of course, disclosure or revelation of ideas or of intelligence or of whatever. And I think that's really, really interesting because the apocalypse isn't quite what we imagine, but we could be working towards it anyway.
But that's interesting point. That's really interesting. And just now, a few minutes before we started this talk, on Twitter, there show up a tweet that Elon Musk and 1,500 people who are in AI and really rich and technology and these guys sign a petition to slow down or to stop the fast development of GPT chat, because they worry that it will take over. And it's just few minutes before this talk, you know. I don't believe in coincidences. That's not a coincidence. And we spoke about this a long time ago. You know, Karel Čapek says that 100 years old, 100 years ago. So it is really, really important. And during my afternoon chat or noon chat, there was one interesting, there was a guy from India, and I told him about this fire is a good servant, but bad master. And he said, we do not have anything like that in India, but we say that generally the 5 elements can do the same. They can serve well, but they can become bad masters. And when he said that, I realized there is one element missing, and that's the technology. So we have fire, we have earth, we have air, we have water, we have something, I don't remember the last one, and there is technology, which was not there at the time when India was created 1,000, 2,000, whatever years ago. But it is there now, and we have to recognize it. And Bill mentioned it right, because Bill says that we have to understand what's good, what's wrong. We have to see it, and we have to recognize it. Because only with recognizing, we can do something with it, in a good way or in a bad way. This is why we call generally the Institute of Wasting. We are creating Institute of Wasting. We do not want to educate people how to waste, but we would like to educate them how to see the waste and prevent it to happen. And this is just a working name, Institute of Wasting. We have another word in Czech, generally it came from Czech, so it's slightly different. And yeah, this is all about intelligence. You know, every single sentence, every single word which sounds in here was about intelligence, about using the natural one to prevent the artificial to take over. Because the artificial don't need us. And there is, if you remember, I mentioned last time the analytics of the artificial intelligence of my keynote. And I tried to invite one of the experts in artificial intelligence. He unfortunately cannot be there today. And I asked him whether he can make digital mic or digital radar, whatever. And he said, it will be too expensive and so on. And you will not like it because of the digital twin and so on. And I said, you know, I do not want anyone to work instead of me. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for someone to compare whether the machine can work the same way as a human does, as a crazy man does. Because, you know, I am happy that I'm crazy, because otherwise I will never be on this path. And at that moment, it seems to me that he somehow hesitated, because his child can lose. And that may be one of the reasons why the people push so much money into this artificial and meta and so on. Yesterday, I found out that Disney dropped their meta department generally. They dropped it out. There was not a reason. And Virgin Orbit generally ended their operations at the moment. So they spend millions and millions of dollars, but they drop it. So we have only 1 minute left. So I'm sorry for that, but we will try to get back on our original link if it will work this time. And let me tell to everyone Please have a nice time, free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, free, and visible. Because if you will not be visible, the AI and GP and whatever, they will be more visible than the humans. So let the giants shrink by growing the humans. That will be probably the next message. So thanks a lot. Have a nice time and see you next week. Bye-bye.